play and spend time working on and spend my, just curating together. The Division really did open up a new segment of gaming in my head. And so that's kind of how all of this stuff blended together. Me still doing my regular 9 to 5. I love it. Honestly, I think it would be very hard for me to be a full-time entrepreneur. Not necessarily because I don't want to, but because it's very hard for me to think about what it would be like not actually doing that. I'll have to find a way, an outlet to still be able to work with people and still do that. That's the main, is just working with people. That's what it is. So I have to find a way to do that and kind of tie it into my own journey. And I think that's what I'm still looking for before I finally just say, all right, it's time to take that deep dive and go from there.
Now, okay, I'm going to try to, I guess, give you some information about me and try to show how we both came to the same starting line, I guess. We both had completely different paths, but we somehow both ended up on the same game, doing the same content, and following the same franchise. Now, it's seeming more and more that all of these informational and discussion-based videos, they kind of stretch from that teacher part of you, that, you're always wanting to get people to think about something in a different way, whether it be, maybe you should think about this build in a different way, maybe you should think about PvP in a different way, maybe you should, whatever it is, you're getting I guess, your reps in from school, from teaching, your everyday job. And I think when it comes to content creating, it's coming more second nature, because it's so easy for you to just turn on a microphone and just do what you always do. The only difference is that you're capturing what you're saying. But you're doing the same stuff day in, day out, just with a different audience. And I think where that's comparable with my past is more military aspect, where I would be flying on an aircraft, not have to know these certain systems inside and out, certain flight controls inside and out, and not only know them so well that I could, be evaluated on it, but for doing it for so long like I did, I actually became more of an instructor type, came towards more of an evaluator type. That way, not only do you know the subject, but you're able to convey the subject to others to where it piques their interest. And not only are you capable of doing that, you're capable of teaching them to a certain level of your own. That way, if they were evaluated like you were evaluated, they would be able to hopefully, have the same knowledge that you've given them. Now, I'm using that as the same type of energy that you've had your teacher experience with, where public speaking, interacting with different audiences of different demographics, conveying topics that might be not the most liked, but you spin it in a way to get others to understand, to get them to appreciate what you're trying to do, even if they don't agree with you, kind of deal. And I get the same satisfaction that I did back in the military, teaching people certain things on the aircrafts I used to fly, as I do now, teaching people videos on this insanely in-depth game franchise where there's so much story, so much.
Life doesn't wait, and neither should you. Aleve can help you deal with pain less throughout your day, whether it's a long day on your feet, a demanding workout, or everyday aches and pains. You need relief that can keep up when pain persists. Aleve is here for you with longer-lasting body pain relief compared to leading OTC pain relievers. With just one pill, Aleve lasts up to 12 hours. Don't let those aches hold you back from doing what's important to you. Use as directed.
Just basic algebra there's a lot of just basic algebra in this video game, and whether we like to point it out or not, a majority of the world does not like basic algebra, and it's aimed at individuals who have the comfortability of speaking, but also being able to just interact with strangers. I think a lot of people just don't really possess that gift just right off the bat. It's usually built into them over time. Like for you, it's been teaching over time. You've been building up this strength to where now I can sit there and listen to a 36-minute long video of you talking about survival. Just even though I know survival in and out, you still put it in a certain way that it has me hooked as a listener, as a fan of it, and it's just like, you know, he's right about that. And then even sometimes if I disagree with you, I'll still go through the entire video. I'll probably learn 2 or 3 new things, and then I'll point out the one thing that maybe I might have known a little bit more in detail, or maybe that, you know, I see something a different way that I'm trying to get you to see the perspective of. And I've really enjoyed it. So anyways, that's how we've kind of gotten into content creating. Now, as far as the Division game franchise, I've heard you say time and time again that there's no other games like it, and there really isn't. There's nothing out there that's like it. What I've been doing years building up to the Division and content creating, I was really big into Call of Duty, just because Call of Duty, maybe it was just being in the military, maybe it was just because I was on Xbox, but Call of Duty was, you couldn't escape it. And I drank that Kool-Aid, if you will, and I jumped right in. First-person shooters were a lot of fun for me. However, what I was noticing over the years is that as these games progress, their campaign or their story mode would shrink dramatically to the point where it's way less about the story mode and it's all about the multiplayer, where I'm a fan of both and I always will be a fan of both, and I feel that you need a strong story, a strong campaign, if you will, first. That way you get fully immersed into that world, and then you can worry about PvP. But as we've seen with Call of Duty, it's basically the same game year in, year out. It's just a different background, and their stories are getting shorter and shorter because they all know that their moneymaker is within the multiplayer and the microtransactions they can apply to that. So went from that to Destiny, the first one, and I fell in love. In fact, if I had to choose a franchise, I'd probably choose Destiny, man. I was fully, like, the problem, and I'll explain it. I'm a lore guy. I love lore. I love the stories. I love puzzles. I love it kind of goes into that the Batman Arkham series, where it's a lot of story, it's a lot of background stories, it's a lot of puzzles, and it keeps your brain going, and I love it. And I think the more story, the more background, the better. And the more Destiny had so much lore. It was ridiculous. All of the raids were amazing. I thought the first game was just a home run through and through. Now the second game, they really didn't focus on the lore that much, if at all, and it really showed in the product. Their first year or two of Destiny 2 was aimed more at making money. It's the game. So there was a lot of backlash. It's been that way for a while. I think it wasn't until the Curse of Osiris DLC where Bungie had a lot of people protesting because in-game content
I'm a 25 years old kid.
unavailable unless you had bought the DLC.
Quietman.
And it was
Mom, Dad,
making
can I
this
get a puppy?
pay-to-play
Blue
mentality
Demon.
and
Wax
less
wrong
about enjoying the game, being immersed in the world, and enjoying the lore. And I think that's, at that point, I actually skipped something there. So I went from Destiny, and as Destiny was winding down, there were rumors about Destiny 2, but then The Division came out. Now, The Division was halted a few years, I believe, from their first E3, and I remember that first E3, I was actually in a different country deployed for the military, and we had all the crew members I was flying with, we had all watched
Though,
the
to be honest, I
E3
got
together,
money. You were older than
and
me.
overwhelmingly, that Division trailer had everyone wanting to play the Division. And then it got delayed a couple of years, so I was stuck in Destiny. Then, at the time, my roommate told me that, you remember that Division game we all watched, we were all ready for? Well, there's people playing it on Twitch. And I had never really watched YouTube or Twitch or anything before. And that kind of introduced me into that area as well, while introducing me to the game. And obviously I got hooked just like everyone else with The Division. And it was really hard for me to put it down. I think I've got, well over 100 days played on both games now, and I've loved every second. I think when The Division was first dying down around 1.5, 1.6, where there were some pretty bad metas there. There was like a Sticky Bomb meta, there was like a Secret Mind meta, and during those certain patches, I picked up Destiny 2 instead of The Division. And then, like I told Epic Slayers, and like I just told you, Epic Slayers had released a video that said, why you should be playing The Division now. And shortly after that, you did your video, which was more 1.8. I think, his was 1.8 as well. And basically, I went from video to video, and all of a sudden I was like, alright, I'm back in The Division, let's go. Because it was just blatantly obvious that The Division was about to hit big, and it did. 1.8 was pretty big, and then that last year with all the shields and everything, it was a lot of fun too. But that got me back into The Division, and then like I said, meeting that guy in the underground, seeing how videos can be very informative and discussion-based, like yourself, it just made it easier for me to just go ahead and say, hey, I can talk into a video too, let's just hit record. And then that was it. I started doing survival videos, because at that time, I think I was doing like a game survival every day, just because I really enjoyed it, and it just blossomed from there. I basically, 30 minutes later, that's how we both got to where we are. That's pretty cool that two completely different backgrounds, two completely different paths, and somehow it led us both to content creating on the same game franchise. So, yeah, moving more towards nowadays. So, like you said, knowing what you know now, if you had to do it all again, obviously you would, and I feel the exact same way. I know that content creating is very time management oriented, yes, and consuming. If you cannot manage your time and you cannot be productive, it's really not for you. That's why some people make a video once a month, and other people make 3 or 4 videos a week. And it's really that time management and just being able to stay productive and still do everything you need to do in real life. Because a lot of us, I say a lot of us, it's actually the opposite. There's not a lot of us that have family, kids, wives, real grown-up bills, student debt, there's a lot of things that yourself can relate to that others don't really have to, which kind of makes time management and being productive more key for us because we don't have certain luxuries that other people do within this industry, because we all know that overwhelming majority of YouTubers, content creators, and just a whole are single, live by themselves, probably with some roommates. They could probably play 24 hours if they want. They could probably, make a video at 2 a.m. if they wanted to. They've got a lot of opportunity there where, like myself, I normally don't play on nights, and I normally don't play on weekends. So I kind of constrict my content creating and actually my game playing as a whole. I kind of put it into like a day job kind of atmosphere where if you are on during the day, during the week, you'll probably catch me on 9 times out of 10. But if you're on at night or you're on, during the weekend, you won't catch me at all because I'll be spending time with my family. So I think that's where the time management and just productivity overall and just balancing life as a whole seems seems more of a priority, I guess you could say, because in all honesty, it just seems like a balancing act. Like how much, because I'm in the same mindset you are, where it's how much can I balance on these spinning plates that I have on these sticks. How much can I balance on these plates without them falling? And you'd be very surprised on how much stuff you could actually put on those plates without it falling. And I think you're a clear example of someone who knows that very well, because a lot of people, they work, go home, and they're tired. They don't want to do anything else.
Holy shit,
And then other
just
people,
got
they
my first
have,
kill.
aspirations or ambitions to constantly progress in one way or another. And that's how I kind of see life, is steadily progressing. How can I evolve as a father, as a person, as a husband, as a gamer? How can I evolve as a content creator? All these things. I constantly look at how I can progress, which even explains why I started this podcast. Is there's so much to do in life, and I think if you're okay with settling, it really puts a damper on the possibilities and opportunities you could have had. Where if you don't open that door up, you would have never known that there were 8 different streets you could have went down. But instead, you're stuck on that one-way road going to nowhere when, you could have had all the other opportunities. Maybe there was a shortcut you didn't know because you never took the jump. And that's where I am. I'm more of the type that always wants to see if I can better myself. If yesterday was a high score, today I want to beat that high score. And if I can't, I need to figure out why I can't beat that high score. And then maybe I can figure out a different way to end up doing it. Sorry for going on these long tangents there.
No, it's really interesting, man. I'm glad you got to share that.
Yeah, man. Like I said, being comfortable talking and just being able to have a conversation, it's pretty second nature. So where are we at? ads. So now we're doing the division. Now, content creating then to content creating now. We can all look on a stocks piece of paper. We can all look at, Google Ads revenue and their worth that YouTube, when it started, when we started, when I started and when you came back to YouTube, to now, it is a staggering increase in users, view, ads, content, channels. It's grown so much that Alphabet, the company that owns Google, is now worth over $1 trillion because of how fast YouTube and Google Ads has grown over these past few years. And that's now, it is the only company in the world that's worth over $1 trillion, and it's because of YouTube helped Google become that, I guess, powerful. So my question to you is, obviously, then to now, the viewers, the views, the channels, the amount of content, everything has changed. How do you think it's changed better, and how do you think it's changed worse off as just content creating? Because you've been doing this several years, but it's hard to ignore that the last 2.5 years have been the biggest 2.5 years of YouTube, just period.
It has. It really has. I have to say that when I first started, I was seeing a lot of accelerated growth. There was so in terms of growth, it was easier to grow before, but now it's easier to establish. It's weird because growth, people would think growth equals establishing, not really. There are many channels that have a bunch of subs that don't have a core community. If you get what I mean.
I see what you're saying. Where it's easy to get into this, but it's not easy to progress.
Exactly.
I guess.
Exactly. That's a better way to put it. So yes, you're right that there has been a staggering increase. Even so when I started in October. By April, I had 3,000 subs. That was my slope. I think my accelerated growth. Yes, started October 2016. April the next year, I was already on 3,000 subs. There was a huge growth coming, but I decided that I needed at that time to change my vocation. I got a really cool job. I got an outlandish offer, and I took it. But after about a year, I decided to leave. And I came back to doing YouTube. Now, my channel was basically almost dead. Division 2 was not out then. And so I kind of had to start from the ground up again and dig again. And it took a while to kind of get some traction. But I do also remember by the time Division 2 came out, there was that core community that came back and said, yo, it's been so long, the way the algorithm works, and so we started on the journey again. And there was that acceleration all the way from when I came back to YouTube after I left. I was over 4,000 views. I remember very well, and I remember trying all kinds of different things, learning all kinds of different games, and that's where I saw, the landscape has really changed, But with the division coming back in and me still growing as a person too, I was able to kind of latch onto what I have right now. Even though it was basically zombieing my way through tiredness and doing a lot of that. So yes, I'm really like fortunate more than anything, because my style is not like it's not the big, huge, clean, style of presentation, and I do that on purpose, honestly. But I want something from my community. I want my community to be the dedicated community. Come rain, come sun, they are there because they know that they're actually dealing with a real person. When I first started gaming that day, I was thinking, maybe it's going to be like some kind of IGN thing where people are going to come and present and all that stuff. But once I threw that idea out the window, I was like, this is now going to be basically me. So this is what they're gonna get. They're gonna get the guy that's making the video while trying to figure out when he's gonna, get the kids in bed. They're gonna get the guy that's just a second ago, before we started recording, I was helping my wife chop some veggies. She was like, hey, I'm gonna make dinner, can you help me chop these veggies? And I was like, sure. And then I lost track of time, and I was like, oh my gosh, we're about to start the podcast. So I was in the kitchen, literally, with my wireless headset, chopping up some cabbage and onions and stuff for her. But that's the content creator. I'm not really much separated from that. If we say, okay, maybe the kids are brushing their teeth, I can be like, hey, I need like 15 minutes, I need to record a video on this topic real quick, and I think it's something important to talk about. Awesome. I'll dash in my office, I'll record the video, and I'm out. Because I have to live a dynamic life, because I am in a dynamic scenario and I enjoy it. And so that's one of the reasons that I've seen that YouTube has been able to help me still establish a core community regardless of my style, and people who actually do appreciate what I do. I could go the really formal route, write a script, all of that. I love to write, crying out loud. But I feel like the division is much better served if everyone in the community is served from that perspective, because I want my videos to feel like you're in a Discord chat with me, or you're in a PlayStation chat with me.
Right. As it should be.
Yeah, and that's what makes us really unique in this community, compared to maybe other communities as well. And so that's really important to me. The people that are here,
I will refer to the village unit time just for you to multiply my graph.
Couldn't have said that better, man. So, let's see. So we've talked about where you came to be here. We've talked about being a community content creator from then to now. Now, now that you're up over 30,000 subscribers, 9 million views on one channel, what are you planning on doing with that? Are there other video series you're thinking about doing? Is there other avenues you're thinking about taking? Are you gonna do your own Gaming Daddy podcast? Like, what's next for you, man? What do you have? What's your aspirations for your channel?
Well, there are some, and I met a gentleman here from the division, and we've been actually doing a collaborative series. He's a podcaster from back in the day. Fat Ninja DM is his, gamer tag, internet name. And I remember he approached me and said, you should do a podcast around the division. And I said, well, I already kind of do that. But I do have a desire to continue doing my Batman and superhero games channel in the style of a co-presentation. Are you ready to come along on the ride? He said, oh my gosh, I'm doing this. Because he's been a podcaster for years and kind of stopped that over the years when podcasting kind of first started was what he did. So we jumped on that and started doing something along the lines of this. And so that was kind of like a step 2 to start on my second channel. That was my first branching out. So I wanted to do I wanted to do something else with YouTube, and I didn't necessarily want to do it under the Gaming Daddy brand. I wanted to go out and hunt for another audience that had a similar, I would say, likes in how I view the superhero games. I like Batman games, I like the Arkham games, so I thought, well, there's a community out there that's of it. Now, sure, there are people in the Gaming Daddy series that wouldn't, but no doubt. I mean, many of you have found yourself migrating over to this other channel too. So that's been fun, but I also wanted to do that and still kind of challenge myself, get a second channel, and just dig down into YouTube with my tentacles as well, and see if I could also continue to, as I provide that value, establish and grow bigger without having to deal with the fluctuations that YouTube always has to take while I'm sitting there going, oh, there's no division content, what am I going to do? There's never a dull moment for me now, especially, having 2 channels and all that stuff, that keeps me very busy. We even do 1 video a week now. We were doing about 3 a week, and that got really hardcore. And so that's one side of, of my content creation that I still have for my audience. If they want to engage in that content, they can find themselves there. And then I'm also working on another project as well. And as I mentioned this before, I actually do have a book that I did start. I finally published it, self-published a fantasy fiction book. And it was a very funny story because I started writing this book like 5 years prior. And I just always put it off. I got lost in the story. And then one day I got a trigger. Somebody drew something and I said, can you draw this? And they said, yes. And they sketched it. And I said, from this sketch, I'm going to finish this book. So I finished the book in basically a few months. And it was a lot of fun. I was like, yeah, I'm going to just finish this. I don't care how rough it is. In fact, I was reading the book the other day and I saw some grammatical errors. And I was like, man, I edited this book and I paid editors and all that stuff. What in the world? But, you know, there's no perfect book. I'll still have to go back and fine tune it. But I remember towards the last 3-4 chapters, I said something to myself, and I haven't revealed this outside of friend circles.
Oh man!
And I said, like, if I wrote a book that had elements of what video games would enjoy or could enjoy, and I said, well, I don't know. Let me finish the book. Let me publish it. Let's see what goes on. And so I finished the book, and I was like, man, this is done. So I talked about it with the community and just kind of shared it with everybody. Because at that point, as I was about to finish the book, my video production kind of scaled down a little bit. You know, I was just concentrating on it like crazy, and I was doing it, I think, 2 days. And at that point, I was like, I'm sorry. And everyone was like, what are you talking about? We hear you every day. I was like, well, I guess. And I finally finished it, and I said, you know, I think it's time for me to start exploring what I think that's the next step that I would do. So, the process of developing my prototype for my own video. And actually, that's what I've been working on. I don't know if you guys have noticed, there have been some lag days in my video production. Because this process is absolutely bone-breaking. In fact, I had a meltdown about a week ago where I said, no, I'm not doing this, it's too much. And then I picked it back up just a few days ago, and I said, we're going to do this. And I'm on this journey. I'm logging the journey in, and I will share it with the community. I'm recording myself actually like sculpt and design. Yeah, I have like maybe 4 hours of like raw footage of my preliminary like designs and all that stuff, and I can't show anything. But I can't show anything in public just yet because I don't want to show something so preliminary that if I end up scrapping the project, you know, it's all a bunch of like to go off anyways. I would prefer that something much more concrete is in the public eye than anything else. So that is actually what I've been working on. Something funny yesterday, I was telling a buddy of mine that we're good friends, also who's in the Army. I sent the picture to him. I said it just took me an hour to put together a bridge. The bridge already had all the components already pre-made, and it took me. I was like, this is so hard and harrowing. I can't imagine how long it takes for these guys to make videos. So that has also affected my scope and my view on gaming. Every single video game that I've had sitting in my library, I find myself from time to time just scrolling through and saying, oh, I feel like an idiot forever thinking this aspect of this game is never sufficient. If only I had known how much work went into doing this. If only I had known how much work went into doing that. Oh my gosh, I can't believe that's actually a functionality. I just sound like an idiot. I sound like I've never played video games in my life. I kid you not. I was playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and my character, I was running towards a rock, and as I ran to the rock, he just climbed it. I put down my controller and almost cried. Because that functionality is so difficult to execute. The fact that Ubisoft just have done it in like 10 games. And we've taken it for granted in the gaming scene. I just don't even know what to say. I just put my controller down and said, oh, you can climb. Well, yeah, it's an Assassin's Creed game. Duh. But I'm sitting here going, by the time I get to the point where I want to learn how to actually develop a climbing system, I know it's going to basically break me. But these companies have executed these things, maybe not flawlessly, but good enough for years.
Oh yeah.
And as gamers, we have high tastes. But many of us haven't necessarily put ourselves through part of the gruesome exploration of what it takes. And I really feel myself now stepping into the shoes of the developer and going, yeah, there has to be a rethink of how we address and how we approach video games. And we as the content creators, because we constantly put ourselves through challenges, we're going to eventually see how much we're going to be a lot more lenient towards development teams. Now, we're not going to give them a pass for making bad games, perhaps. Because there are other development teams that actually just set the bar high every time they touch a game. But at least if we see a team genuinely trying, we ought to give them the high five that they deserve, rather than just praise them on the face and do that, because they put in a lot of work. They put in a lot of work in that doing. So that's actually the next step. I'll be making Division videos, hopefully. And then just working on this prototype just so that my audience can just see what it is. And I'm doing it for me. This is one of those things where I'm just doing it because I want to do it. And so that's what I've been working on. I'm very tired. My sleep is trash now. I thought beginning of Give Me That it was hardcore. That was nothing. That was nothing. Now,
are you gonna build? Are you gonna build on to that book? Are you gonna end up making it a series?
Yes.
What are you?
Yes, I do intend. In fact, I'm halfway through the sequel. I was halfway through the sequel before the COVID thing hit, and I put it on pause. My goal is to write 12 chapters. It's supposed to be quick, very quick read for people who are fast at reading, and also not overwhelming for people who just usually are not big readers. But if they pick up my book, I don't want them to be overwhelmed by the size of it. I always thought about, if I ever wrote a book, it needs to be able to fit in your back pocket.
That's a really good,
Yeah, that's kind of always been my idea. So when I finished the book, I was 12 or 13 chapters in, and I said, that's a good number. So for the second manuscript, I was on chapter 6 when the whole COVID thing hit, and I stopped. And I'm glad that I stopped, because now that I'm actually trying to make a game off of it, I have more freedom to rewrite aspects that I want to be built within the lore, or I can just make the game just go its own way, but will still be set in the world. So it's really efficient, but I'm happy that there's some originality to all of this.
I like how you've done it the opposite way, where you're already a book in. You're nearly halfway done with the second one. Prototype to hopefully one day build your own video game. That's insanely awesome. That's probably the coolest thing I've heard so far.
Yeah, I was not only buried inside of the podcast, so that it's one of those things where you have to be really secretive. I'm not going to take credit. I also want to credit Fat Ninja, because one of the reasons I mentioned him was I was looking at my second YouTube channel going, if I ever go on this project, I'm not going to be able to handle 2 YouTube channels, because this is really getting tutorials and keeping them to the side. But once Mr. Fat Ninja came into the picture, that really did free me up enough to go into the learning phase.
Oh, okay, because so he's controlling that channel for you, or
He is moderating. He's moderating. He's taking. I just said, yo, if you want to do this, you're taking ownership partially of this channel, and this is what it would entail on your part. He said, throw everything to me. Anything you want to teach me, just teach me. I just want to be along for the ride. I enjoy talking to gamers. I love doing this, and that's what I want to do. And he's been a very huge source of encouragement more than anything else. He's the one who said, if we only have to make one video a week on this other channel, let's do it. Because at the end of the day, if this works out, it's going to be a big, huge thing that will serve the gaming community, much more than just making a bunch of videos every week and all of that stuff. It's more tangible. Having a video game in their hands, or having a prototype or a demo in their hands, or whatever it is. And so he's been a lot, there as well. There's also another content creator too that I will give credit, but I also want to keep it a secret because I have a friend circle that's really been very encouraging through all of this. And I got my wife who's just a saint, who thinks I can pick a mountain up by my hands if I wanted to. So she's like, yeah, if you think that's something you want to do, why not try it? And I remember,
Let's be real, man. Hold on. Let's be real. So you've moved here from a completely different country. You've established a teaching residency, basically, where you've been a teacher for several years. You've been a content creator for several years, different channels. You're an author. You're developing the prototypes for a future video game, and the list just keeps on going. So, I don't want it to sound weird, but if I was your wife, I would do the same thing. I'd be like, dude, whatever you want to do it. Obviously, you can do it. Look at you now. You've done so much. You've got a resume that not two people would normally have. And you have yourself. There's so many people out there that don't have half of the credentials. It's amazing, and you keep doing it. And that's that whole...
There's so much more than a great insurance company. They're one of America's largest financial services companies. Like how I'm more than just pay I'm also motivating, man. When I say insurance, you say financial services. Insurance. Insurance. Now when I say nationwide, you say it's up. Nationwide. Nationwide. Your insurance and financial needs. Nationwide is over your side. Nationwide Investment Services Corporation, everything across the line.
That whole balance, it's like, well, if I can balance this plate, maybe I can get a bigger plate.
Yeah,
I balance four.
You know what's funny, Mr. Bondu? Whenever they say there's no content in the division, it always makes me happy.
I laugh every time.
Thank God they're doing a new project. In fact, when they delayed Cyberpunk to December, I knew it was a sign from God to actually take this prototype off. Because I knew once Cyberpunk came out, where were we going to find the time? So I was like, I need to start learning. I need to pack in as much knowledge so that I can kick this down the hill. And I was like, well, I started I started beginning of October. And I was like, I'm going to start doing this before Cyberpunk comes out. And then, oh my gosh, Cyberpunk's going to come out. Assassin's Creed's going to come out. There's going to be new stuff for Season 4. I want to cover the content. That's my primary audience. I want to serve the community. And so they said, oh, Cyberpunk has been delayed. I said, oh, this has got to be a supernatural delay. I don't care. I'm going to jump in on this. So I started going back on my tutorials. I started watching them. I'm still watching tutorials every day. That's the way you do it, man. You just learn and say, how do I change this color to blue? Go find out any way you can do it till that color changes to blue. Or put it aside, and maybe the algorithm will be happy with you. My YouTube algorithm has changed. Like if you open my my YouTube page, you're gonna be like, what in the world are you watching? It is all kinds of technical stuff surrounding game development, specifically with Unreal Engine 4. And
nice.
It's a wonderful resource that's out there, but the journey is hard. I haven't seen a lot of people that have done this. I have a 99.9% chance of failing, but I love the fact that I only have 0.1 or less than 0.1 chance of succeeding. That's all I need. I just need just a slight statistical chance, and that's all. I think that's all you need. The rest of it depends on you. If you fail, well, good. You now know exactly what not to do.
Right, and that goes. I think that goes without saying that should be a part of everyone's day-to-day life. I mean, if you're negotiating for a business and you ask for a number, and the other industry is saying, well, we've never dealt with a number that high before. It doesn't mean no. It just means they haven't done it yet, which means there's hope. There's that 0.1% chance. Yeah, they'll completely with you. You can make this novel, and we can make it a whole book series, and yeah, we'll make you a video game. But it's the fact that you started that, you put your foot forward in that direction, you made hope happen. You basically created your own hope when it comes to this world that you're basically making from your head. It's pretty cool, man. Really cool.
Appreciate it.
Dang, that was a rabbit hole I didn't think we'd go down. So, being a developer, that'd be sick, man. Maybe I can be an audience member in one of your honorary bachelor degree you're gonna get from like MIT or something.
Oh my gosh, that's
I'll
funny.
give you a honorable degree, and I'll come show up and be like, I knew him when he was a content creator.
Oh my gosh.
Look at him now.
What I have to say, though, I am looking for seasoned gamers to start preliminary testing on concepts and all that stuff. So,
Let me explain that. How would that go?
okay, so
So preliminary testings on concepts. What are you saying? You're just spitballing ideas?
no,
What do you mean?
so when they tell you if you're gonna make a video game prototype, you have to put it in the hands of gamers as quickly as possible.
Oh, of course.
And that way, especially if you're doing it by yourself. So I've been following a few indie developers that have solo devved their games, because those are the only people that will have enough credence for me to follow. And they're also fathers, and they did it by themselves. And they have very realistic expectations and realistic patterns that if anybody would follow with enough determination, they can also do that. And so one of the first things that many people would say is you need to get your game into the hands of testers as early as possible. So I would love to have a lot more people that are inside of my gaming extended family circle start taking a look at the prototype once it's ready.
Oh, wow.
The initial, the very first scratch, the very just make of it. I'm not trying to do anything overly ambitious. No, I'm literally going to make a different version of one of my favorite games. That's what they'll tell you, make a game that's established and just take away from it. You know what I mean? So you don't overwhelm yourself, because there's too much that goes into it. It is ridiculous how much goes into it.
I think it's way easier to start with, a template, whether it be a good or bad one, than it is to start from scratch.
Yes,
Definitely.
very much so.
Especially in a programming aspect, it's really, it's dramatically easier to go from taking someone else's code and then either adding or subtracting from it than it is to just there and be like, all right, I want you to do this, start from scratch, do it now. And it's like, what?
Now, here's the beauty, though, of, in today's world, you don't necessarily have to worry about a lot of that. Once you create a process and a flow, there are resources, both paid and free, that can get you to where you need to go. And it won't cost you anything other than maybe in some cases a fee upfront or royalties at the end. Like Unreal Engine 4 is free. You can download it and start messing with it. Anybody can. It's free. The whole thing's been free for years too. Yeah, and it's just more about just the information. And their only stipulation is your budget and your sales. Once they reach a certain threshold, then you give them royalties for everything above that threshold. In fact, what really made Unreal Engine just the right choice and that's what I'm working with. There's Unity as well. I was gonna go with Unity, but what made Unreal Engine just the obvious choice was the fact that when they did when PS5 and all this stuff were being advertised, the summer when everybody was still like, oh, we're gonna get a PS5. They did the Unreal Engine 4 presentation. Have you seen that? Unreal Engine 5 presentation, sorry. Did you see it?
I don't believe I have.
They used this wonderful demo that they made that looked like just this high-end game. And probably not going to be, it's not a game. But they used it to show the power of the engine, and then they made one announcement at the end. Before, if your sales were at I can't remember, $100,000, then you started paying royalties to Epic Games. But after the end of that presentation, he said from now henceforth, they were going to increase that. So your first $1 million stays with you before you start paying any royalties for using the tool.
Well, you also have to know that the difference between Epic then and now is that they are one of the top companies out there now.
Yes.
Fortnite has established them.
The 10-year-olds have basically changed our lives. That's basically
they've changed everything. Yes, and that's kind of the same logic that I was explaining to
with your podcast as well too. When you were talking about your podcast, what you're doing here, I was like, yes, this is definitely the model that I would be happy to be on that train. You just wanted to serve and give value, and that's pretty much what they're doing. They're just giving value and just wanting people to have a because the process is already difficult, so they just want to ease that process on the long run.
Exactly. So there's so many eyes on YouTube, Twitch, whatever, that it's really hard to pinpoint where those eyes should go. So if I can sit down with all these individuals that some people might not even know, they'll be like, who is Gamey Daddy? That sounds like a naughty, whatever. And
it does. It's weird.
and then you'll have people that are like, man, he's very well spoken. I've never heard of this guy. And then it interacts, and like you said, with your YouTube algorithm, it only takes a few videos to change someone's page completely. You can go from watching Call of Duty games to watching Division 2 games in one day just by clicking on a couple of channels. And I think doing things like this, it definitely opens up those avenues for people to take. Like I said, with the whole closed door mentality, well, we're opening the door and we're giving you, X number of avenues you can take. This episode, you can go down the Gamey Daddy avenue and go check out all this old content. You can go down the Gamey Daddy's other channel where he's talking about Batman. You can go look up, the novel. You can go to the Discord and try to get some of those cool, prototype pigs. I mean, there's a lot of cool doorways this opens up for people, and just knowing other people within the industry, it's sad to see some of these channels not progress the way they should. Like you were saying, it's easy to jump in the swimming pool, but it's not easy to stay afloat.
Yes.
Like, a lot of people can jump in, but not a lot of people can swim in place for 2 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And this helps at least establish a smaller swimming pool, I guess you could say, where it's not as deep, where people can hopefully get more, I don't know, just more exposure, just overall, because obviously some people won't like my take on things, and a lot of people might love your take on things, and then vice versa. Maybe it's, hey, we love, your informative videos, he does informative videos, maybe we'll try that out, or vice versa. What this does is it helps just give that option out there to just build everybody up, because there's no sense of this, I'm in my own YouTube corner, no one can touch me, like this weird golem looking creature from Lord of the Rings, where it's my precious, my channel, my precious, and it shouldn't be that way. It should be more of an opportunity, more of a networking tool to just get more opportunities out there. You would never know that certain people would be that friendly. Like, for example, I had never talked to Epic Slayers before, ever. And when I first explained to him what was going on, not only did he think it was an amazing idea, he wanted to be the first episode. And it was like, wow. It was like, out of everyone, like, he was the first one to respond. We actually recorded the episode the next day. So I had thought about the podcast. I didn't come up with a name or a logo yet. He was already wanting to do an episode. And I just think that